Hello, welcome to week 4 of Org 612, Nonprofit Executive Leadership and Board Development. You've wrapped up the first big piece of the course. That's the Executive Leadership and Training Manual, or guide. Now we're going to move on to the next big piece of the course, which is developing a board manual. So that's going to occupy us for the rest of the time. Review the bottom half of the letter. Go back in the course introduction, review that letter that you sent out to a CEO. And so pay attention to the week 4 section of that letter. And there you're going to see a host of questions, more questions than actually you asked when it came to asking questions about executive leadership. Make sure you answer all of the questions. You really want to dive in, and you need to discuss what you're finding out in those questions. Now, the questions really are written from a consultant perspective. It's not like just an assignment. Pretend once again that you're in the chair of a consultant and you're trying to help this CEO in their board development. You're trying to help them create practices, policies, procedures that will help guide the board operation. And that's going to have a significant reduction in discontinuity, conflict. And I'll talk more about that here in a minute. So again, put on your consultant hat as you're interviewing that CEO. And I challenge you with that because the goal is to have a product that you can put in the hands of someone at the end of the course that doesn't have to be a slavish representation or recreation of something you see in the web. I mean, you certainly may use those pieces, but it's like a template that they can modify for their boards. Now, in my own practice, I've got a template that I use, and it's 40 pages. It's too long. But what it does is it gives them a place that they can begin cutting things out, putting things into their own language. It's basically a go-by. So there's nothing really new under the sun anymore. And so as you think through the board manual, think about how you can adapt and adopt different materials and contextualize them for your purpose. And remember here that you're fact-finding, not fault-finding. So it's not your role to say, well, they should do this and they should do that. Your role is to say, well, this is missing and this is what we could put into place here. Or you do have this item, however, we may wish to say it a different way or to make it more clear, maybe more concise. Now, my own perspective on this is that as I've reviewed and worked with different boards and organizations, one of the most frequent themes that I come across is conflict. And usually that conflict arises between the CEO and the board itself. And oftentimes the driver of that is discontinuity or dissonance, disagreement between the CEO and the chair of that board. So you'll have a conflict in understanding the mission, vision, and values maybe within the board itself. Oftentimes you'll have conflict in operations. Who should be doing what on the board? What roles, what are the key roles the board should be playing? Is there an inward focus? Yes. Is there an outward focus? Yes. Should the board be looking at the budget? Yes, of course they should. To what degree? And so you'll be creating also some guardrails. And some I'd like to just interject here is consider job descriptions for board members. And then also consider where the organization is at in its development process. Depending on who you read, you can find anywhere from 3 to 5 different stages of board development, anywhere from an organizing board who brings about the articles of incorporation, all the way through to a working board, a governing board, and then an institutional board that's usually pretty big. And then their whole focus really is on fund development or fundraising. And so there's different stages of board development that go with the stages of development within an organization. So making sure that you can tie those things together will help as you're creating your board manual. The board manual will also help you as you think about telling people what they have to do or orient them to what the responsibilities are within board membership. And so that's, again, another part of what the board manual does, is it puts up guardrails for you. And it pretty clearly identifies what they're going to have to be doing as board members, what the responsibilities are. So the idea is you try and remove as much gray as you possibly can. Okay, that's it for this week. We'll talk to you in the Zoom session, and we'll see you on the forums.